The $12,000 worth of government-issue supplies packed into the courtroom today were very familiar to Thomas Lawback. Surrounded by the expensive military hardware, the defendant listened to FBI agent Bill Brown testify that a raid on Lawback's home uncovered goods believed to be stolen from the Krause Army Reserve Center. The agent also said a pair of bolt cutters seized in that raid matched the size of the tool used to cut off 13 locks during the break-in at the armory. But under tough cross-examination by defense attorney Jack Freeman, Brown did admit he could not prove that Lawback's bolt cutter was the same instrument used to gain entrance to the Reserve Center. Federal Judge Ralph Thompson also heard testimony from another FBI agent involved in that raid on Lawback's Northeast Oklahoma City residence. Special Agent James A. Porter told the jury that a pair of Army boots and other government-issue supplies at the house had a strong odor of gasoline and smoke. Lawback is accused of robbing the Krause Army Reserve Center, placing homemade explosives throughout the building, and then setting it on fire. The charges of arson, theft of government property, and unauthorized use of explosives carry a maximum penalty of 45 years behind bars.
Annual press conference. In the past, we have announced such Many people consider the Royal Ballet the best ballet company in the world. They have a fine tradition with Sir Frederick Ashton. They're coming over from Covent Garden for a tour of the United States. Oklahoma City will be the only Southwest engagement for the English ensemble of the Royal Ballet.
It does now give us the ability to compete on a larger scale. It gives us the ability to deal more rapidly with the economic problems that we've been facing here in Oklahoma and possibly bring them to a faster resolution than we could have done independently. And I honestly believe that.
Both areas of the criminal justice system in this town, targeting that area, we providing more attention to it, the DA providing more attention to it. The first thing that happened is it went up. No, it didn't go up. More people reported it. The fact that the police start investigating the crime better and the DA starts prosecuting is not going to make crime go up. We think it's going to make the public who is affected by that crime have a greater confidence in it and come forward and report it.
It's a bit of a tedious process, but then again simple when you consider the role that it could play in identifying a lost child. Oklahoma Abducted Children, associated with the nationally known child find, is trying to get the word out to parents that abducted children must have identifiable characteristics, and fingerprinting is one that leaves no questions.
What we're trying to do is just touch his fingers on it. It's going to be hard to roll.
More than 150,000 children are abducted every year in the United States. Only about 10% of them are ever found. But don't let fingerprinting give you false security. It will not prevent abduction, but it can be a step in the right direction.
We need some laws that also are applicable to fingerprinting children that in the school systems. So that if a child enters the school system, he will be fingerprinted, and that fingerprint will be maintained in a national registry. When he transfers into another school system and the fingerprints are taken, it will be checked against that national registry for abduction.
If your children have not been fingerprinted, you can get a kit through Oklahoma Abducted Children by calling 842-7293. Parents hang on to the fingerprint records, and hopefully they'll never have to turn them over to police. Terry Cook, News 4.
I think that the nomination of the Vice President of the United States, Geraldine Ferraro, is so historic that today, as the prerogative of the chair, I'm going to announce that Ginger James will cast the vote for Vice President of the United States in her first vote ever at the Democratic.
Gary Hart is not giving up. When the votes are tallied on the floor tomorrow night, the Colorado senator says he still has a chance. Hart is strong in Oklahoma, and his team on the Sooner delegation remains optimistic. They get together each morning after the regular delegation caucus.
We have been working, we've been lobbying, and we certainly are not throwing in the towel, as the news media has been saying.
I think there is widespread support in Oklahoma for Gary Hart's candidacy, and I think some of those delegates who are here as Mondale delegates may be persuaded by the fact that general opinion among Democratic voters in Oklahoma is more in line with Gary Hart's positions.
Hart campaign manager Pudge Hinkle is optimistic, and he talks strategy with us.
First is to be able to gain support for Senator Hart and having people, delegates, commit to his candidacy to demonstrate that we have momentum. Secondly, it is to deny Mr. Mondale a first ballot nomination.
So, Hart is not giving up, and if he should happen to get the nod, half the ticket is already etched in stone. Hart likes Geraldine Ferraro, too.
Last night, as the time neared for Oklahoma to cast its ballots, Governor Nye wrote the delegation totals on his hand, so there would be no mistakes when the time came.
Madam Secretary, the state of Oklahoma cast for Jesse Jackson 3 votes, for Walter Mondale 24 votes, and for Gary Hart 26 votes.
In Oklahoma, the Hart campaign had won the battle but lost the war. And by the time the Oklahoma votes had been cast, tears had replaced the almost undying optimism of Hart delegates.
I get so emotionally involved with the people I care about. I really care about Gary Hart and the things he has to say. And I think we were feeling a little sad, because we'd worked so hard and we felt like, everything had gone for naught. But it really hasn't, because we put forth new ideas for what, is to come, the future of the party. That's what we are.
And this morning, the Hart delegates and the Mondale delegates, who had sat apart all week, sat together for the first time. And with voices gone from cheering, Hart supporters became a part of the Mondale campaign.
Give us a little time to heal up, and we'll be in the trenches with you this fall.
And there was another note of optimism today, because delegation members know they will make history when they nominate Geraldine Ferraro tonight. The women delegation members will be given the best seats. And the delegation's youngest member will cast Oklahoma's unanimous vote.
I'm very excited. I'm very honored. I think that it seems to be very appropriate. I'll cast my first vote for the first woman vice president of the United States, so of course I'm thrilled about it.
I'll have to say this for them, they're very, very... He can still practice. The reason the board doesn't act any quicker than it does, it must provide due process to these people, provide a hearing. They meet every 2 months, and the person is entitled to notice of the complaint, entitled to time to prepare, and is entitled to a hearing before any judgment is made, because it is just an allegation.
The bond was reduced upon the agreement of the district attorney and myself to the sum of $5,000. I cannot comment on the reason.
When the town of Wetumka decided to add on to its hospital back in the late 1970s, forecasters promised that the population here was going to grow. But now, more than 10 years later, the truth is residents are leaving Wetumka, and the latest forecast is that trend is going to continue. Occupancy here is down. Only 11 of 34 beds have patients today. At its best, occupancy ran about 39% last year. Wetumka General Hospital has filed for bankruptcy.
We just cannot generate sufficient revenue from the patients we're taking care of to pay our routine operating expenses plus the long-term debt.
The residents of Wetumka agreed to allow 1 cent of a sales tax increase to go towards paying off the principal and interest on revenue bonds that were secured for the hospital's expansion. But hospital administrators say that's hardly enough to cover the cost. Interest alone runs $175,000 a year.
We need it bad, and I hope that everybody will come across and help. I had a heart attack last October the 6th, and if I hadn't got over there, well, if it had taken some longer, well, I might not have even made it.
Does this town need that hospital to stay in business?
We need a hospital here, yes, we definitely do. Because if I had to go somewhere else, I might not have made it.
Wetumka's hospital is one of 3 in the country to file for Chapter 9 bankruptcy so far this year. It's asked for reorganization of its debts. If it's not allowed to do that, the residents of this town will have to travel 25 miles for hospital care. Terry Cook, News 4.
This doesn't mean we're moving back to single celling. We still have over 2,000 inmates double celled in this system. And in fact, if we reach the capacity set by this board, we still will have nearly 2,000 double celled. But we've set that as what we will operate at.
may be done. A child abuse exam. Depends on, there's many things that have to be looked at, indicators of abuse, the age of the child. Of course, different states they operate. I think probably a comparison of our state statutes and sentencing, maybe compared nationwide, maybe compared with what really happens here, needs to be made, yes. And I think DHS has become very involved with this and be supportive and as much help as we can.
There by the teacher's cross. So they have bingo.
Residents of Apache Manor wiped the sleep from their eyes this morning to the sounds of knocking, of police calls, of urgency.
You need to evacuate and go to Pine Harbor, okay? They got a chemical spill over here.
As the rest of Tulsa prepared for another Monday morning, these North Tulsa residents fled their homes and headed for their cars, grabbing children and clothing as they went.
Come on, Joyce, you ready?
Those without transportation headed for emergency buses.
Come on in, let me get you out of here.
Transit authorities and police officers scrambled to evacuate the area, fighting the clock, as nature followed her due course, and the glinting sun began to heat up everything beneath her.
Looks like we have probably 90% of them that are out of here.
Was it difficult to get everybody out?
Well, it was at first, till the word started spreading that the urgency that they need to get out, and word of mouth, they all left.
Residents were taken to the Celia Clinton School. There, they gathered, confused and thankful to be out of danger. The Red Cross arrived shortly after 8, helping to ease the tension with food and drink. But they weren't there long. By 9 o'clock, the danger had passed.
Okay, we're going to be able to let the people go back to their homes. Those that have their own transportation can go back. Are you going to need some MTTA buses?
Relief on their faces, the people returned home, almost 3 hours after they had been forced to leave. In Tulsa, Susan Watson, Channel 4.
You know, there's something about a really beautiful sunny day that makes most of us just want to get outside and enjoy it. But you also got to admit, you may not always be doing your skin a favor. Now, what I'm talking about in this instance is the possibility of developing skin cancer. Now, most of you have heard something about the relationship between sun and skin cancer. And I find it sort of interesting that a lot of folks still go out there and punish their skin.
I think the most important thing that people need to remember is that a suntan is the skin's response to injury. And there's really no such thing as a safe suntan. In order to get a suntan, you have to give your skin some amount of damage.
Now, the damage Dr. Kripke is talking about is specifically that injury that is the result of ultraviolet irradiation that's in the sun's rays. These ultraviolet rays do, in fact, cause cancer.
There are certain warning signs that you look for skin cancer. One is some kind of a raw spot that doesn't heal. That's always a sign, a warning sign.
And in addition to a raw spot, you may also need to look out for areas of thickening or discoloration in your skin. Now, if you notice any of these signs, I would really suggest that you see a good doctor. Now, I'm not suggesting that you become a hermit and move into a cave. I'm just saying use good common sense, especially if you've got fair skin like me. You need a lot of protection. Hat, maybe gloves, certainly long sleeves. Also, remember sunscreen. They're very important, give you good protection. Take care of yourself. I'm Dr. Red Duke. Let's go. You know, there's nothing like being out in the warm sunshine because it just feels good, and in some cases it'll give you a pretty good tan. But you also got to understand that it may impair your long-term health if you get too much of it. Surprisingly, a skin cancer known as melanoma has been observed to be occurring more frequently. All skin cancers are potentially fatal, but melanoma is by far the most dangerous. There is strong evidence to link melanoma to the amount of exposure to the sun's rays that you get.
And it is not a disease to be taken lightly if you live in the Sun Belt. For an example, there has been about a 250% actual increase in the incidence, the actual incidence of melanoma, such as in Arizona.
Now, please understand it's imperative that all skin cancers be removed or treated appropriately with X-ray. With cancers other than melanoma, there's a good chance that you won't have to worry much about the cancer spreading, assuming you was treated early enough. Melanoma tends to be more invasive and spread sooner.
People do need to be on the lookout for melanoma. It is increasing, and it is really dangerous, and it is absolutely dependent. The prognosis for melanoma is absolutely dependent on early diagnosis.
Now, I'm sure you probably wonder what a melanoma looks like. Well, most of them are pigmented. I mean by that, they are darker than the other skin. 2/3 of melanoma actually begin in pre-existing moles, but the other third actually begin as new pigmented areas. Now, next time we'll talk specifically about what melanomas look like and what to do about them. Take good care of yourself. I'm Dr. Red Duke. You know, everybody likes a good suntan, and I must say I envy those that can have them. But I also got to tell you that malignant melanoma, a potentially fatal skin cancer, is associated with the amount of sun that you get to your skin.
Melanoma can develop in two ways on the skin. You may develop it out of a pre-existing mole, or it may develop unto itself as a mole.
Now, as a rule, most skin cancers occur around the head, neck, and hand area where you get most of the sun. Now, even though there's no question that melanoma is linked with the amount of exposure you get from the sun, it can occur anywhere on your body. People in the Sun Belt tend to have melanomas much more frequently than other folks. And it's the folks with fair skin, like blondes or redheads, especially with light-colored eyes, that are the most likely victims of this cancer. Now, if you have this kind of natural skin coloring, be especially mindful of the warning signs of melanoma.
Any pre-existing mole which increases in its size, especially rapidly, if the mole begins to change its color, most of the time darken, but sometimes even losing this pigment can be a sign of regression of a melanoma that is already established. If the mole begins to bleed, this is a very bad sign.
I cannot tell you how important it is to seek treatment early. If it's caught early, you can have a 100% cure. Now, don't be afraid of getting out in the sun, because it's good for you, in moderation. But just use good common sense about what you're doing, about how much sun exposure you get, and how well you protect your skin. Take good care of yourself. Dr. Red Duke.
I'm Tara Haskins. Training procedures have not changed that much in the 3 years since the strike. Only the most qualified applicants get accepted to the FAA Academy. And out of those, only the cream of the crop graduate. Training is as highly pressurized as the job. Over 10,000 potential controllers have gone through the Mike Maroney Aeronautical Center since 1981, but just more than 6,000 have completed the course. The washout rate is at least 48%.
Certainly, it's a tough course, and those who get through know they've been through a training course, and the washout rate once they are in the field, according to our records so far, indicates it's no worse, in fact a little better than it used to be in the field area.
Weaver says reports of near-fatal accidents in the air are not a reflection on the quality of training for air traffic controllers.
So-called near misses have occurred for a long, long time. We like to think that the near misses are down considerably from what they were at one time, and we also keep a very clear progressive air movement of traffic underway.
Weaver says there is talk among controllers of a new union, but he says the organization will be years down the road. Tara Haskins, News 4.
It was, in my opinion, a spurious motion to begin with. Still my opinion. Apparently the judge concurred with me. We won. I'm on the case. We're here to fight it out. Let them take the best shot.